I ran away from home because my husband was letting his best friend's sister get too handsy with him. Now he's saying I'm disgusting for having thoughts like that and to divorce. I'm still so shaken by everything, so sorry for my rambling. My husband Jake, 25M, and I, 25F, have been married for 3 years, and from the beginning, he was very close with his best friend's sister, Cindy, 18F. Well, my husband would often talk about her and tell me how he had seen her grow up throughout the years. Cindy is always very bubbly and seems very fond of Jake as well. I remember when we were dating, she would ask to come along on our dates a lot. I never really said anything as I liked spending time with her as well. She was like a little sister to me. When we announced our engagement, she asked my husband to better not forget her after becoming a married man and to still hang out with her. Well, we got married, and I even made her my bridesmaid. We sort of lost contact afterwards because we moved to a different state. Fast forward to now, Jake's best friend came to stay with us for some time, and Cindy came along as well. The moment she saw us, the first thing she said was how hot my husband has gotten and she was glad he didn't look like those boring married men. Then, throughout their stay, Cindy would just ignore my presence and be way too close to Jake. I told Jake that it was looking a bit inappropriate and asked him to tell Cindy to tone it down, but he said that Cindy is just a bit childish and is that way with everybody. Well, on their last day, we decided to host a dinner party for everybody. During the party, I was with Jake when Cindy came and told me, "Oh, I need to steal your husband for a while," and before I could say something, she grabbed Jake's hand and took him to play games. I ignored it since it was their last day, but then throughout the dinner, she was getting way too close to Jake and would just drag him away whenever I was around, all while giggling at me. When everybody sat for dinner, I sat beside Jake and Cindy came last. She then said, "Oh, there is no seat," and then just went and sat on my husband's lap. Everybody was surprised, and Jake said, laughing, "Cindy, stop acting like a kid, you're not a kid anymore." Cindy started laughing, saying it was a joke, and got up to sit in another seat while giggling at me. Yeah, I was so angry with the disrespect, and with the fact that Jake was so cool with it, but I didn't want to say anything bad, so I excused myself, took my car, and went out. About an hour later, Jake called me asking where I was. I told him I was going to my friend's house and I would come back after Cindy had left. I know what I did was terrible, but I was so angry at that time that if I had stayed there any longer, I probably would have started fighting or crying. I came back the next day, and Cindy and her family had all left. Jake was very upset and said I had taken things too far. I started crying and told him how everything made me feel. He said I was horrible to think such things about Cindy and that she was like his sister. I told him that I was not doubting his intentions, but I was hurt by how disrespectful Cindy's behavior was, and he was enabling her by not saying anything. He started saying that I sounded ridiculous and couldn't even take a joke, referring to the incident of sitting on his lap. I said regardless, I don't want her in my house again. To top it off, Cindy sent a message saying that she was sorry for making me feel insecure and that she would make sure to make me feel better, but I should not have left as it was pretty childish and kind of spoiled the mood. It felt so backhanded, I didn't reply to her. I just told my husband he needs to maintain a distance from Cindy. He asked if I was giving him an ultimatum. I said if he would go as far as to disregard and disrespect my feelings for Cindy, then yes. This really rubbed my husband the wrong way, and he said since I have such disgusting thoughts in my mind and giving him an ultimatum anyway, then he might as well leave because he cannot live with such an insecure person who has such disgusting thoughts about him. He packed a bag and left for his mother's place. I have tried apologizing numerous times, telling him how sorry I am for everything, but he is ignoring my texts and calls. Later, Cindy's brother texted me and called me a bunch of names for thinking like that about his sister, saying Jake should just leave me and a disgusting person like me deserves to be alone. I could not stop crying after that. I don't know how to fix this. Is there a way to even come back? Was I so wrong to deserve this? Update 1. Thank you all for responding and to those who gave me good advice in personal messages. I couldn't read all the comments, but now I know my feelings are valid and boundaries were crossed by Cindy. Now, during the dinner, there was Cindy, her brother Sean and his girlfriend, and their cousin Derek, who's also a good friend of my husband, with his boyfriend. So, I called Derek and asked about the situation and what happened after I left. He was sympathetic and said that after I left, at first, they thought I would come back after some time. However, things were really awkward, but when I didn't return, Sean's girlfriend told Cindy that she was so disrespectful for doing that. Derek and his boyfriend also said the same thing. To this, Cindy started crying, saying they didn't have to corner her and attack her over a silly joke, and that she didn't know it would get so out of hand. She then left the room while crying. Jake didn't know what to say, and everybody left early the next day. Derek also mentioned that Cindy has always had issues with boundaries. When he introduced his boyfriend to everybody, Cindy would get too close and joke that she was just checking if he really wasn't straight. They were really uncomfortable with it as well, so Derek confronted her, to which Cindy rolled her eyes and said they couldn't take a joke. Eventually, she stopped. This all sounds so bizarre, I don't know what's going on with Cindy. Sean's girlfriend also texted me, saying she was sorry for what happened. I told her how Sean's message was inappropriate, but she had no idea about the text, so I sent her a screenshot and asked her to tell Sean not to harass me again. She was very apologetic and said she would talk to him. Now, my mother-in-law called and asked what was going on, as Jake didn't tell her and only said we had an argument. I was a bit hesitant to tell, but eventually, I told her everything. She was furious at my husband. She said they would be coming to have a talk. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to arrive and feeling really nervous. I don't know if what I did was right or wrong, but we will see. As for people saying my husband is some kind of kitty lover or they are having an affair, I know this is furthest from the truth. I never questioned his intentions, but what hurt me was the lack of respect from Cindy towards me. Update 2. For people who are still asking me about the update in private messages, so, my mother-in-law came with my husband, and well, the talk happened. There were a lot of things, but I will try to summarize. Basically, Jake apologized to me first and tried to explain his point of view. He said that he was angry because I left without saying anything for the whole night when he was literally trying to just diffuse the situation and try to laugh it off because it was so awkward he didn't know what else to do. Instead of communicating, I just left him in that weird situation. He was meeting his friends after such a long time and just wanted the dinner to be peaceful. Cindy was going back anyway, and we would most likely never meet her again. He acknowledged Cindy was indeed overstepping boundaries, but he didn't know how to bring it up since he has literally seen her growing up, and she is like a little sister to him. Also, she acts like that with everyone. He thought that it was just for a few days, and he wanted no drama during their stay, so he would just brush it off. He did acknowledge he was wrong about not saying anything. He was already really worried and sad because of how I just left with no explanations. Even after I came back, not once did I ask how he felt. He was also very overwhelmed with everything and felt I was accusing him of not doing anything when he literally pushed her off as politely as possible when she tried to sit. He felt I was attacking his character and even gave the ultimatum, which made him so sad as he felt I thought less of him. It wasn't about Cindy, but about how easy it was for me to question his sincerity. He said after that dinner he was going to go extremely low contact with her anyways. He apologized for not speaking up about the disrespect Cindy was showing towards me and for also leaving like that. Then, after Jake said everything, my mother-in-law explained the situation from her perspective to Jake. She scolded him a lot as well. In short, she told him that as a husband, it was his responsibility to make me feel like I am his priority, and that he disappointed me the moment I had to come to him to ask for establishing boundaries. As a husband, it was his duty that I never would have to come to him about this in the first place. She also asked him how he would have felt had it been a guy on my lap, and he had no answer to it. She told him that what I did was an eruption of suppressed feelings and as a husband, it was his duty to come after me and never let me leave in the first place. There were a lot of things said by her and Jake seemed to realize and sincerely apologize for his actions. She told him that if he ever pulled such a stunt ever again, then not to expect her to take him in. Later, she took me for a walk. It was just the two of us, and there she explained some things to me as well. She said that she is sorry for everything but told that even at her house, Jake was distraught. He didn't tell her because he most likely knew he was wrong too but was overwhelmed about everything as well. She said she was in no way excusing her son's behavior, but would hope that I would forgive him. She also said that under no circumstances do I need to leave my house as it was my house and my family. She said I shouldn't be afraid to speak my mind if anything makes me uncomfortable, and to talk to her if Jake does something stupid again, and she will set him straight. She hoped we would work it out since she has seen our love for each other, and it would be sad to see us split up due to some disrespectful brat, her words. She said she cannot have a say in our issues but suggested that we should get counseling to understand each other better. She even bought ice cream for me. I know it's a bit childish, but she said sweet things work as a charm when people are upset, and well, she was right. Well, it was awkward at night. Jake came to our room, and we didn't know what to say. After a while, we talked and both apologized to each other. However, I did tell him that I was angry at him for telling everything to Sean and was deeply hurt by the text he sent me. He said he didn't know what I was talking about, and I showed him the texts. He said he didn't tell Sean about our fight, and only told him that he was at Mom's place. He called Sean, and well, it turns out Sean told Cindy and told her how she went too far at the party. Then Cindy made a huge sob story about how I was passive-aggressive with her the whole time, how I would always try to question her character and act insecure and jealous. She even went on to say that I was always like that with her even when she was a kid and that I never liked her and always tried to manipulate people into thinking I was an angel while she was a bleep. Well, that made him angry to think how I had been treating Cindy, and he sent those texts. Jake and I were baffled by such accusations, and he tried to explain to Sean how it wasn't true, but then Jake just let it be and decided to go no contact with Cindy and extremely low contact with Sean. Jake apologized again, and we just cuddled and slept. Well, Cindy is out of our lives for good now, and we have decided to go to counseling for better communication in the future. Let's see how everything goes, but yeah, we are not getting divorced. I know a lot of you people wanted me to show Jake this post, but he was so sad and got scolded a lot already, so I decided not to show him for now. Maybe in the future. Sorry for all this rambling. Have a good day, people.
We sometimes push away the things we love due to negative associations. A man is drawn to certain traits in his wife but avoids them because bullies once mocked her for those same qualities. He feels embracing them would be a betrayal. The solution is to slowly let those attractive traits shine naturally, rewiring his brain to see the beauty without the baggage. Our minds can create fascinating relationship dynamics.
My husband overheard me tell my friend I know he settled for me and doesn't find me attractive. Now he's acting lower than my self-esteem and I don't know how to help. So, I have a friend, let's call her Anna, and she is an incredibly beautiful woman, and she could have her pick of men whenever she wanted to. She recently broke up with her boyfriend because she was out of his league, and he knew it too because he would act in insecure ways. Anna said that she didn't want to settle for someone less than the best, and she asked me why anyone would settle and brought up my marriage as a positive example of love. For context, my husband Alan and I are happily married high school sweethearts. He was heavily bullied in middle and high school, and when I moved into his hometown in sophomore year, I stood up for him. By the end of senior year, he had people he could call friends, and he asked me to prom. 10 years later, we are still happily married. However, I know that my husband doesn't find me attractive. I'm naturally taller and more muscular than the average woman, and it's a huge insecurity of mine. A year after we married, my husband drunkenly confessed that he didn't find me attractive. He prefers petite women with delicate facial features. But he was grateful for what I did and felt obliged to thank me, which is why he asked me out to prom, why we dated throughout college, and why he proposed. He still loved me very much but wasn't attracted to me. The next morning, he was hungover and had forgotten his confession. He doesn't drink much because he doesn't have a filter and tells the unvarnished truth. I felt crushed, but our marriage was very good otherwise. I never told him what he said that night. I don't think most men are attracted to the way I look anyway, and he was still a great husband to me. So being settled for isn't the worst thing in the world, and we're both happy. I explained all of this to Anna, and she was grateful for the advice. That night, Alan started crying. He was crying silently, but I woke up. I hugged him and asked what was wrong, and he admitted he overheard our conversation. I didn't expect him to overhear since I was in the basement, but he heard his name and decided to listen in. I apologized for hurting his feelings, but it just made him sob harder. I don't know what I did wrong or if I did anything wrong. Update 1. Hello, I'm back with a short update. I received a lot of messages on my post last week, and it was a bit overwhelming. I want to say I am a people pleaser not just for my husband, but also for my friends and family. I want them to be happy. I love my husband and want the best for him. We had sessions of couples therapy, and he now has a personal therapist. It was surprisingly easy to find someone who suited us, but I did pay a lot of money for our sessions, and they left me feeling baffled. Our counselor was a no-nonsense but comforting older woman. We went through our life, discussing how he was bullied, how we met, how we married, and our careers. I told her about how he had drunkenly told me he wasn't attracted to me, but that didn't matter because we loved each other, and I didn't know what made him upset. She asked us honestly if we wouldn't be happier as best friends but married to other people. Alan adamantly said no. She brought up affection, bedroom life, those things. We told her we had an active bedroom life with a couple of quirks and were very affectionate, etc., which she focused on. She basically said someone is lying at some point because you can't have all of those things together. She asked Alan to walk through his attraction, and he snapped and said he didn't want to talk about having disgusting or bad thoughts about me. It was a very long conversation afterward, and I'm still confused, but essentially he thought that anyone lusting or having those kinds of thoughts about me was bad, especially other people. He loved me for me. It wasn't even about me being his wife or me being a woman, or those common things. He thought anyone who had thoughts about me was bad and I should be protected from them. Alan told the counselor that I was too soft, gentle, and pure to think that there are bad thoughts about me and bad people. I've never heard that before from anyone. I told our counselor that nothing bad has happened to me. I was worried if Alan had trauma in his past that made him wary of others since he had been bullied so viciously in school, but he said that I was thinking of him again and I should think about myself. He said I still didn't realize that the world is scary for me. The counselor asked about any guilt he felt about attraction, and he broke down. A couple of years ago, I had intensive surgery, and Alan helped me with everything, even eating, showering, and getting around. He confessed that when he helped me with bathing or dressing, he accidentally looked more than he should have, and he could feel that I was starting to realize he was having those thoughts about me and shut down. I don't really remember that, but he's my husband. I didn't and don't mind if he looks. He talked about how much he loves me and wants to spend the rest of his life with me. My counselor said I have grown up to think of others' wants and desires above my own, and I do have people-pleasing tendencies, but on the whole, I'm pretty mentally healthy. I got a few booklets and packets to fill out. My husband was told he needed intensive therapy as soon as possible, and he had his first session a few days ago. I don't know where this is going or what happened to make him think the way he does. He didn't grow up in a religious environment, and his parents are very affectionate and have a strong marriage. I still love and support my husband. Update 2. Hello everyone, I am back with some updates on my situation from 6 months ago. My husband and I still go to marriage counseling, but he quit therapy because he said it made him worse. We found out a lot during therapy. Much of his trauma came from school, where he was brutally bullied. The adults turned a blind eye, his friends abandoned him, and he couldn't tell his parents. So he felt alone until I arrived. I was well liked, and because I protected him, the bullies stopped, and people were nice to him again. He loved me and saw me as his savior. The problem was his mental state wasn't good. I think my husband was in the process of being diagnosed, but he has intrusive thoughts. I've always been taller and more muscular than other kids and treated as older. I'm still obviously female, just one that's naturally taller in stature. With beauty standards emphasizing small and thin, I always felt weird about my body, but that doesn't stop creepy men, and it didn't stop teenage boys. His bullies made comments about me that are degrading but not atypical for cruel teenage boys. Some of what they said matched his thoughts because they were normal thoughts, intrusive thoughts, or just fantasies. He had a lot of fantasies and a lot of intrusive thoughts about me. It confirmed to him that people have bad thoughts about me, and he is just as bad, but the difference was he could control it, so he made a decision not to be attracted to me. He said the more he got to know me, the more pure and precious I seemed, and the less he could let the rot in. He had to keep me safe because the world would destroy me. The comments he made when he was drunk were ones of deep denial, trying to reassure me that he didn't have disgusting thoughts about me. That does explain some things about how my husband behaves around me, especially in the bedroom, and it also explains why he's very protective of me. He's always been an adoring husband, which is at odds with someone who is not attracted to me. The bathtub memory affected him a lot because he could rationalize a lot of things, but for the first time, I was vulnerable physically and in need of his help, and his fantasies and intrusive thoughts got worse. Some of the therapy was to try to get me off the pedestal, but it didn't really work, and his intrusive thoughts got worse. He said he had to quit, and I supported him. He told me some of his fantasies, and some were normal, and some were disturbing. I told him that I loved and trusted him. Our marriage is strong, and I will stay by his side and help him.
Okay, buckle up for some family drama. Picture this. You're married, living your best life, when suddenly your husband's bestie's sister starts getting way too friendly. I'm talking hands everywhere, giggling at all his jokes, the works. And get this, your husband? Totally oblivious. How disgusting. She even had to run away. I would have told the husband on what's happening and get his support.